This time on CG Performance, we take a locked up motorhome 440 and build the cheapest, most budget-themed big block bracket motor we could for our 73B body. I present to you the Joe Dirt 440. How is everybody doing? I hope you're well. I know here in the shop we're doing great. If you haven't just yet, go ahead and like this video because you may want to come back to it later. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and if you have, thanks. You'll be glad you did. Don't let this imagery fool you. This has come a long way. My buddy Kevin turned me on to a motorhome fresh, ran when pulled 440 for the paltry sum of 350 bucks. I couldn't turn it away. And it was absolutely 100% complete, from the breather to the oil pan, fan to the tail shaft, because it did come with a transmission. Granted, it was a motorhome transmission, so we couldn't use it here, but it doesn't mean we can't use the guts out of it. But we'll get to that later. What you need to focus on is right here in front of us. And when I say locked up, I mean literally locked up. Cassandra and I did try to roll that motor over. We wired up the starter, even had a breakover bar on the crank bolt, and it was not rotating. So we tore into it, and this is what we found. And as you can see, it is a complete filth pit. It had some rust in cylinder number 7. It was kind of bad, but with a little bit of persuasion, we were able to get the thing to break loose and roll over. There's still some pretty decent pitting in the number 7 cylinder wall. We're going to address that today. Get this thing blown apart. I've got a hone that I borrowed from a friend of mine, 3 stone. We're going to run this through all 8, follow it up with your standard run-of-the-mill dingle ball to put a nice crosshatch pattern back into it. And if you guys remember, I've got not one but 2 complete sets of standard bore 440 piston rings for standard pistons. Thanks, Knuckles. Won't forget you for that favor. A whole bunch of goodies on the trunk of the brown car, a whole bunch more goodies on the bench. We just got our water pump in from 440 Source in the mail 2 days ago, I think. They're the only ones that I've been able to find that have an aluminum passenger side drop water pump housing for a big block. But in the meantime, let's get the oil pan off this thing. Let's start pulling the mains out of it and see what lurks beneath. Let me find my favorite motivational device. That was easy. They're never that easy. That's cool. I did not know, and maybe some of you down there in the comments might know, that some of these motorhomes came with factory windage trays. That's cool. Let's see, looking down inside, got some ugly flashing on the counterweights, but nothing really jumps out at me as, oh my God, this is terrible. Well, all in all, I give it a 6 out of 10. But let's not stop the autopsy here. Let's see if I can't get this pickup tube out of the way. Maybe. There we go. If anybody's restoring a motorhome and needs, you know, oil pan and pickup tube and such, hit me up. I know a guy. Oh, cool. They even cast 440 in the counterweight as if you didn't already know. That's cool. It's like a big block for dummies. All right, I need my special super duper crank socket. I suppose I could spin the oil filter off, get it out of the way, huh? Still smells new. All right. So I guess we'll start right up front with 1 and 2. Okay. A little bit of trash has gone through it, but it's not terrible. Analysis. Let's see, the rings still got some decent tension to them. I'd say this thing lived a fairly uneventful life. You know, just slight wear patterns in the piston walls. That's peculiar. Or is that just trash? It looks like nylon. That is one thing I did notice when we were tearing this thing apart, is the cam gear on this thing. And if anybody out there knows better than me, please correct me down below. I was not aware that Chrysler ever put double roller timing chains on production engines, and this one had one. The cam gear had the Pentastar stamped into it, and I still got it over here somewhere. Let's see if number 2 is going to be as difficult as number 1 was. Ah, that's better. Okay, number 2 bearing doesn't seem to have as much scarring in it as number 1 did. So that's always a good sign. All right, so we went ahead, got all 8 pistons knocked out of this thing. They didn't put up too much more of a fight. And got the rear main seal retainer pulled. Took a little bit of time, if you couldn't tell. Had to attack the front of this thing with some different wire wheels to get all the old gasket material off from the timing cover. The old pan gasket was about caramelized on this thing. It was a permanent fixture, this 440, but we managed to succeed. And I determined that it would probably be better suited if we went ahead and pulled the crank out the same before we started honing cylinders. That way we're not crashing the hone into the counterweights and into the throws and whatnot. I've already come through here and broke all the main caps loose. So I'm just gonna spin them off. Yeah, man, 440 cranks are not light. Well, the mains don't look awful. Number 3 looks a little weird. Doesn't make me feel cozy. Number 3 looks a little ate up actually. So maybe it's a good thing we're going in here before we decide to start beating on this thing at the racetrack. In either case, I'm gonna go ahead, get the main bearings out of here, roll this thing back over, and then I'll be honing cylinders for probably the rest of the evening. So I'll catch you guys in the morning. Well, it has been an entire month since we could be back to our starting point. I'm gonna try to go over the whole scenario in as short amount of time as possible. Got the engine completely tore down, had it down to just nothing more than the rotating assembly. Decided, you know what? Load it up, take it to our friends at Big State Grinding, let them give it a hot bath, let them go ahead and surface the decks, slide in some new cam bearings, give it back to us, and then we can build it. I mentioned that number 7 cylinder having some ugly in it, and this is the guilty piston. You can see right here where I failed at trying to get that top ring unstuck after soaking this thing in diesel for about 3 weeks. The top ring just wasn't going to give up the fight. Not a big deal. We've still got all 8 pistons that came out of Knuckles 440 a year ago. Why don't we just go ahead and slam those pistons onto our rods and call it a day? Well, we knew we had good rods. We do have LY rods. It's kind of hard to see the stamping, but it's right there. So we know these things will take a beating. The pistons were still in great shape. And we said, let's run them. Had them pressed on the rods, brought them home, tried to slide them in the bores, and nephew looked at me and said, "Unc, this ain't gonna work." I said, "What do you mean?" I didn't know it. Matter of fact, none of us did until nephew went to start cleaning the top of one of these pistons with an SOS pad. And it's kind of hard to see. In fact, I can barely even read it, but it's got an old TRW part number in the top of it and a .030 stamping right there. Obviously, number 1, it meant that our block had to go back to our friends at Big State so they could bore it 30 thousandths over. But we've got our bracket motor back, we've got pistons that fit bores, and now I get to actually build this thing. So we've got rod bearings, we've got brand new rings. I'll run my math and figure out where I want to gap this thing, so let's get started. So we got 4,350 times .0055, calling it 24 thousandths on our top ring, and then we'll go 0.60 for our second ring, gives us 26. So let's take our number 2 ring, because it's actually a little further down in the bore. We'll go dot side up, take one of our pistons, and use it as a square. You don't have to go too far. Got our 19 thousandths feeler sticking out. Not much resistance there, so I'm gonna go up to 20. Actually, I'll go 2 steps up. I'll go to 21, see what that does. There's a little bit of drag. These rings might be pretty good out of the box. I'll go 2 more steps. I'll go to 23. Because if I only have to open these up 3 thousandths, that would be great. Okay, 23 is a snug pull. It's not super tight, but it's snug. So let me try 24. So 24 is still kind of free. 25. Okay, 25 does not fit, so they're at 24 thousandths. Well, that's cool. That means I only have to open them up 2 thou. Used a little drill action. All right, we'll take our ring. And whatever you decide to grind on, if you have to make repeated trips, only ever continue grinding on that side. You'll want to leave one factory edge. So in our case, we're going to grind opposite of our dot. Our dot's over here on the left side. So we're going to push the ring all the way up against these stops, and we've got the right side of our ring against our wheel on this side. You may not be able to see it, but we're going to hold the ring down flat, and we're just going to easily take some material off that one side. And you don't want to go too crazy too fast, because some of these wheels can be really aggressive. So we'll take a little bit off, we'll clean it up, knock some of the burring off of it, and then we'll slide it back in the bore and repeat as necessary. So we'll do this 8 times with the second ring. We'll do it 8 times with the top ring for a total of 16. And then we'll install them on our pistons and go on to the next step. You know, for us trying to build a cheap, quick 440, we sure are taking a long way to get there. But if you can see, we do have 4 slugs in here and things are going okay. We just recently got back from the machine shop from trip number 4, and that trip was nothing more than taking all 8 pistons and rods to have them resize the big ends. Why? 2 reasons. 1, we went ahead and upgraded ARP rod bolts. Second reason, actually the more important reason, even though these rods came out of this motor, we had 3 or 4 that were pretty tight, and we had one that as soon as you torqued the cap on it, it would lock up the rotating assembly. It would not let the motor turn over whatsoever. That was trip number 4. I was trying to avoid trip number 5. We had a little bit of a nick, the number 1 throw, number 2 journal, and I've spent the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 days with various finer grade sandpapers just trying to work that groove out of it. This may be a cheap, just throw together bracket motor, but as evidenced by our multiple trips to the machine shop, we'd still like it to survive for at least 1 season. For the record, I had never had one of these little, you know, crank over engine stands until Cass got me this one for Christmas a couple years ago. And I don't think I'll ever go back to having an old style. Like, this thing's incredible. I love it. I also hadn't had one of these tapered ring compressors until recently. Yeah, I don't think I'll go back to the old style anymore. These are just nicer until you get your finger caught. Yeah, look at that. And a lot of you going, well, yeah, Gary, that's how they're supposed to work. Well, I'd never had one, so sue me if you want to. And it's just that easy. We'll go up to 25 first. These ARP rod bolts, torque to 50 foot-pounds. And typically I'll go in 3 steps, but something like this, I'll just do it in 2. All right, take it up to 50. So I got a little more work to do to get the rest of these slugs in here. And then when I'm done, we're gonna send our cam home. And I'm pretty excited about our cam. I'm so excited, in fact, I'll tell you guys about it now. And sticking with the theme of budget big block bracket motor, it is a hydraulic flat tappet. It is from Comp Cams, if you couldn't tell by the box. It is grind number 21-226-4. The advertised specs on this thing, advertised duration is 293 on the intake, 308 exhaust. Duration at 50 is 250 and 256 respectively on a lobe separation of 110 degrees. So yeah, that's the cam that we chose to go with. I'm not sure if you guys feel the same way about Comps lifters as I do. I've heard a lot of complaints about their quality control lately, like in the last couple years. Just out of caution, I went ahead and went with a set of Lanati lifters. And I think I've even got their valve springs too, if I'm not mistaken. We're gonna reuse the valves that came out of the heads. I got new valve seals for those heads. They are 915 castings. All this time I thought they were 906s, but supposedly the 915s of the iron heads, this is just what I'm understanding, everything shy of the max wedge heads, the 915s are the better castings to get your hands on. So we have our hands on a set. And all this time I thought they were 906s, but here in just a few minutes, we'll slide our cam into here, put our timing set on, and then we can put the front cover on once I put the rear main seal retainer back in. We just got done lapping all 16 valves in both cylinder heads, and all I'm doing at this point was to take a file and just barely, and I do mean barely, lay just the lightest pressure. There'll be this little sharp edge right here at the top of the valve where it meets the seat, and all we're trying to do is just lay the file. It might be hard to see, but you just, and this is a concave file. It's got a beveled outer edge, which works really well for this. We're just laying that file right on that ridge where that sharp edge would be, just to help prevent some turbulence. So that's what we've been doing. I've got one cylinder head completely done. It's over on the table. I'm getting ready to install the valve springs on that one. I got the other head here. I've already got an exhaust valve chucked up in the drill press. And again, all we're going to do is fire this thing up, spin it at whatever RPM I've got it set at, and just barely touch that file, you know, put it at a little bit of an angle and kind of just let it rest there at that very top edge. Knock down that sharp edge, which this one doesn't really have one. I may not have to do this one. Yeah, we're just going to keep plugging along with these other valves, get them cleaned up, get the seats cleaned up, get the lapping compound all scrubbed away, and then we'll start assembling. So that pretty much covers it. We didn't go into great detail with this thing. And yeah, we had to go backwards to go forwards a few times, but I feel like we learned a lot in the process. So now all that's left for this thing, bolt the water pump on, get the car ready for it, and drop this thing in. This is an easy to copy package. We didn't use any real wild, extravagant parts. The heads, stock casting heads, nothing special there. Rotating assembly, still using the cast crank. Again, nothing special here. You guys can replicate everything we have here at home for the same price, if not less than what we spent on this one. You just got to have the right resources. And as Mopar guys, we have to be hoarders. So with all that covered, hope you guys learned something. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Drop us a comment down below. Tell us what parts you would have used if you were building this engine. We might take the advice down the road, because this is not the final form of this engine. It may not even be the only engine that ever goes in this car. I've already got plans to build a 512-inch stroker. Who knows when that may happen, but when it does, you'll see it right here on CNG Performance. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.